Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, depending from where are you watching us. And I have the great pleasure to welcome you on another webinar in our series 10 Stages Human Rights from History to Action. This project is developed by Humanity in Action Poland, and it's possible thanks to the support of Google Poland. And our project is under the patronage of NGOPL and Babka od Histy. I'm really happy that we can meet again and talk about another difficult and important topic. We are linking our conversations to our app 10 Stages, which was developed by Humanity in Action Poland, and is based on the theory of Gregory Stanton, 10 steps leading to the genocide. So you can imagine that the topic is really complex. And today with me are two great speakers and experts. I'm really happy that we can meet today and talk. Today we have another intercontinental meeting because from Israel is connecting Lynn Feldman, who represents Teach the Shoah. She is a director of Holocaust Scholarship and general manager. Lynn is also a great certified tour guide. She's pioneer in guiding with storytelling. And she is also the expert of the Holocaust education. She is working with many different groups from different countries, and educational work is really outstanding. So I'm really happy that you are here with us today, and you will share with us your knowledge and your experience. And we have also a guest from Europe. From Budapest, from Hungary, is connecting with us George Tatar, who is a diplomat with great experience, 27 years of service in Hungary's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He was holding the key posts in Baghdad, Prague, Vienna, and he was also working on EU integration and foreign security policy coordination. He's based in Budapest, but today he is also involved in NGO sphere, so the third sector. He was one of the founders and he is the chair of the board of trustees of the Foundation of International Prevention of Genocide and Mass Atrocities. And I think we have a great set of speakers today because we will have a bit more theoretical approach, but also very practical. We will take a look from the policymakers' perspective a bit more, and also from the practitioners, from educators' perspective, and people who are working on a daily basis with groups, visitors, young people, educators, and teachers. And I also would like to remind you that you, our viewers, you are able also to participate in our conversation. Under the window where you can see our faces, it's the possibility to leave a comment, and in the comment section you can ask the questions, and I will share with our speakers everything what you would like to ask. So I think we can start the question session. I was wondering how to shape this conversation to learn from you as much as possible, because it's a great chance to combine different approaches and different points of view. And I'm pretty sure that, as usually, on the other side of the screen, we have many teachers, educators who are asking pretty similar questions in their daily work. And I recently participated in the Teachers Educators Seminar, and we were also talking about such topics, and there are many question marks in the educational field. How to teach, what to do, how to prevent, how to make the parallels, but in a sensitive way and not comparing events and issues, but just leave the space to think for the students. So I would like to ask maybe Lynn, you first, because you have such a broad experience in teaching about the Holocaust, in guiding through the places connected to the Holocaust. And you as a scholar, educator, and guide have this great experience. And I was wondering, because in our app, 10 Stages, we are using the personal stories to draw the attention of the users on such topics. We try to show through the personal stories some important points on the timeline, but also present the steps, the 10 stages. And as you are the storytelling pioneer in guiding, I was wondering how this kind of structures, the storytelling-based education can help people, pupils, but also adults to recognize the warning signs, and how we can include the storytelling in educational programs.
So thank you for that question. A personal story allows for empathy and allows for connection. So when we deal with mass atrocities, the Holocaust being one of those, or probably the largest one of those, it's very big. 6 million Jews, 500,000 Sinti and Roma, 500,000 of Jehovah Witnesses and LGBTQ, and it's a lot of very, very big numbers. And even though there have been many projects trying to convey what those numbers are, like the Paperclip project or the Matches project, where you see these big mountains of small objects to kind of bring through what that number means, it doesn't touch people in a very personal level. It is too generalized, it's too wide, it's too big. A story of a person per place that you go to allows for the connection. And I can give you a sample for this. So we always talk about in Holocaust education about the more known names, right? The bigger names, Janusz Korczak or Mordechai Anilewicz. So if we talk about the orphanage in Warsaw, we can talk about the orphanage. We can talk about 250 children who were taken from the old orphanage into the ghetto, and then that grew even more, and then they're sent off to Treblinka. And again, it's very big. But if I take one, whether it's one of the children from the orphanage, I personally like to tell Stefania Wiliczenska, who ran the orphanage even without Korczak, and I bring her story forward, it becomes personal. And if I start that story within the grounds of the original orphanage pre-war, explaining also what Jewish life was pre-war in the 1920s, and what kind of children end up in this orphanage, and what kind of backgrounds do they come from. If I return to Stefa afterwards within the old ghetto area, talking about how life would have changed from one place to another, and I'll bring back Stefa standing in the grounds of Treblinka, I can complete the full journey of one person. But usually a group, whether they're adults or children, it actually doesn't matter. By children, I mean young adults, 16, 17 and onwards. It becomes personal. They're invested. They want to know what's the next thing. But more importantly, they'll go home and they might tell that story to somebody else. They might tell somebody about that one person. And for my example, this was Stefa, but this repeats itself anywhere. So that's in a tour. In a tour, I can take a few of the people who might not have even survived to come forward and tell us their story, and some who did but are no longer with us, and bring those stories forward and have that personal connection. The same thing can happen in a classroom. If I'm standing in front of a class of 8th graders, 9th graders, it doesn't matter. And again, I'm telling them the history. It's important that they know that on the 1st of September, the war broke out and so on. It's a lot of dates, it's a lot of numbers. It doesn't speak to people in the same way, to young adults. They won't relate to this. They will relate to a story. And I can tell you that one of the educators I worked with, who taught really, really young children, used the book of Tommy from Theresienstadt, the illustrated book. And Tommy was part of the class for this was 6-year-olds. Tommy was part of the class from the first day of school until the last day of school. They followed his story through these illustrations. So it's a bit of a different storytelling. You use art more, less words. It's also age appropriate. We don't go into what really was Theresienstadt, what really happened to Tommy's father, mother, and so on. But we can start at an early age as well by bringing in storytelling. Storytelling makes everything more accessible. It makes it more personal. It also allows for people to think about themselves. What is their story? How can their story relate to this story, right? If I'm with a group of teenagers and I use one of the diaries, whether it's Anna Frank or whether it's Mary Berg or Itzhak Rudoszewski from Vilna, and they're the same age, they can make those parallels. And again, I don't bring in the parallel. I don't say ever, what would you do if you were? Because we don't know. I've spent most of my adult life, in the Holocaust, researching, learning. I still don't know. I will never know. And God forbid we should never know what it was like to be in the Holocaust. But when you hear a personal story, you tend to kind of take it to yourself and to try and make that connection.
Yeah, thank you. And this is something what also happened in the process of creating our app, that the biographies we are presenting were the chosen ones, I would say, because we asked the people to send us the stories they think they should be included in such app. Because as you said, there are this kind of role models and well-known stories that we can repeat over and over again, but we don't know thousands of stories which are also worth to share with others. So we know some stories, but there are plenty of local stories that we will never know. So we ask the people around us to send the stories they think they are worth to share. And we got some of them. There was also another step. It was a voting because we had to choose the stories. And some local communities who shared the stories were also voting and keeping fingers crossed because they really wanted to include their story from
Sure.
their hometown in the app. What in the end happened, but it showed that also the local people feel this connection with the story and they are kind of proud of the story. And this is the starting point for learning for the next generations. This is also the question we are asking ourselves for decades already. What will happen when the eyewitnesses will be gone already? And this is the question we are asking over and over again, actually, because it's not a question from today, but already 30 years ago, the scholars and educators started to ask the question. So, but these stories can be still kind of alive in the memory and in the local communities. So I think this storytelling is a great tool to do so. And it's not the school type also tool, because some people don't want to be in this school framework. So
Mhm.
this is much easier. And as you said, they can put themselves in this kind of way of sharing stories.
Absolutely. And we need to remember that oral storytelling exists as long as humanity exists. People told stories around the fire in the cave, and they told us all through the centuries. And we have this across cultures. This isn't something that is specifically Jewish, specifically related to the Holocaust. Storytelling is a form of preserving our history. It is a story that is told from one generation to another, to another, to another. I mean, in some countries, I'm partially Scottish, so part of the heritage is these stories that nobody wrote. The literacy in Scotland was quite large for many centuries. But the stories went down, and we know about all the different clans, the different tribes that were, and this hero and that hero, and who slayed this one, and who fought there, and who won the gold here. It's something that happened. Even more so for the Holocaust. As you say, there are still living witnesses, but also there's a vast pool of testimonies that were given, written and oral and eco documents that still exist. And one of the things that we do at Teach the Shoah is we teach people how to do storytelling based on these testimonies so that they don't just sit in an archive somewhere and gather dust and nobody hears those stories. And when you have, as you say, communities that have their own story, that gives even more power because there's more people who want to tell. It's not just the one-off that chooses this. So yeah, I think it fits in very well when it's a community effort.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take a look on this topic from other corner, I would say, because we are talking about this experience of educators, of the local communities, but I'm wondering what about the policymakers and the leaders, I would say, what about them, how they can learn from the past atrocities, because we are not talking only about the Holocaust, but how they can learn from the history to prevent such events in the future, or at least try to prevent them. So George, what can you say from your experience?
First of all, let me congratulate on the whole topic, and once we'll have the chance to talk or to convey my best wishes to Gregory Stanton, please do it. He made a great job, and actually he was present when our foundation has been established officially at the ceremony. So he knows our activities, and I also follow their activities for obvious reasons. The storytelling is something very special. And what I wanted to add here from another angle, as you said, I am not a teacher. I used to be a sort of politician, used to dealing with making policy, with promoting things. And when I worked for the European Union 7 years in the Council Secretariat of the EU, my job was to promote the issues of prevention of violent conflicts, where of course genocide mass atrocities were very important to emphasize and to focus on. The storytelling is important, and let me also add to this that this should be done, in my view, not only once or twice in life of somebody, but that should be repeated, because people used to hear the same story with different ears and watch the same films, the same movies with different eyes. Therefore, to repeat the story is not a problem. People's awareness will also change first. Secondly, this the storytelling should be, and the capacity building, awareness raising should be not only for students, but also for policymakers, please. They should learn that this conflict, the prevention of mass atrocities, this is a long-term story. So it doesn't start with killing people. It starts with polarization, with discrimination, with hating, hatred, and so on and so on. And then in the end, with dehumanization, and then with the hate speech and incitement and the perpetration of the crimes. And that's the point, is that this whole story should be personalized as well. That what similar stories are in our days in each of our countries relating to us, because we used to think that we are immune, particularly in Europe. We say no, just those in Africa and in Asia, they may witness or may perpetrate mass atrocities. We in Europe, in democracies, no. Don't forget, nobody, no state is immune of mass atrocities or genocide, firstly. Secondly, this the current new tools of digitalization, this gives new tools for people who want to generate conflicts within societies. And this is very dangerous. The young generation should be taught how to use these digital tools, how to control, check the facts told by politicians, and then once they are able to do that, then probably they are able to learn the situation of this um, us versus them stories, and also they are able to also monitor the hate speech, the legal erosion and the policy discrimination within the country. So I don't want to go further in this, but one more point is very important. That it is also in the education, that the role of the ordinary people, that we have to explain when even in storytelling, that not only monsters commit genocide. Genocide is committed by ordinary people. We think that these are monsters, they come from us, and the young generation must learn that and must recognize that. I don't want to go into further details because then the whole night will be spent over this topic. Floor is yours, Larissa.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to ask you one more thing. How do you think, out of your experience, are the politicians open to include such topics in, some policy making? Because you mentioned also young people, they need to know how to check the facts, they need to know how to recognize the mechanism. But I have also the feeling that very often, not only politicians, but in general adults, they don't know how to do it. So if we expect that from the young people, if they function in the system which doesn't provide the tools for that, it's also difficult. So what do you think?
First of all, the politicians are not gods, are not gods. They are normal people like we are, you know. They don't, in my view, the majority of politicians, they don't like to be taught. They think they know everything best than the average people. And this is not true. So the politicians also, it depends, how they see the society. Some politicians build their policy and activities on generating conflicts within the society. These people, they even don't believe, they don't want to believe that what we do by generating polarization and conflicts and hatred within our society, this will lead in long term to genocide. There is another type of politicians who do understand this, that we need to strengthen cohesion within the society, and therefore we need to do everything that the young generation learn how to use the tools, how to check the facts. So you may not say that politicians in general terms, but in my view, the teachers should be how to say pioneers in trying to build up capacities, not only of pupils, of children, but also of politicians. And so we need to create communities where there are civil society, policymakers, teachers, and then these people should come together and share their experience and help raise awareness of the whole society of the threats of genocide, of this long-term process and very dangerous cumulative process.
Thank you. So basically what we need is the teamwork and lifelong learning. This is the goal we should have in front of us. And because both of you are working in international contexts also. And that brings always values, but also some difficulties and challenges. So I would like to ask you, Lynn, from your experience working in this not only international, but I would say intercultural context also, with Jewish and non-Jewish audiences. What did you learn out of this international cooperations about the topic, which is related with the main subject we have today, what happens afterward. So do we remember? What about the memory, remembrance, commemoration? How does it function in different communities, in different parts of world, and how, from your experience, that look like in the, I would say, local communities also?
So thank you for that question. I find memory is very elastic. It's never static. It never stays. It changes by the time, the place, the leadership. There's a lot of different factors and different layers that help. Well, I don't know if help is the right word, but that do bring in elements within memorialization. So my main field is the Holocaust. And we can see that commemoration is very different from one place to another, and it's very different through the eras. So if we go back, and I'll stick to Warsaw for this sample, if we go back to right post-war, so 1945, there's great efforts done when Warsaw is being rebuilt post-war. There are very big debates on how to rebuild Moronov. Should we use the elements of the broken ghetto, the physical elements, right? The stones, the concrete, should it be not just a new neighborhood, but should it also be a site of memory? Many debates. Those debates are not done by the civilians. They're done government, right? And then we see with the regime changing in Poland, of course, there's a different shift. So we all know what Moronov looks like now, what kind of style of building there is, and what that represents in the era-wise. We do see, however, for Holocaust, there is commemoration, and most of the very first memory sites, like the Nathan Rappaport Memorial or the Umschlagplatz that started off with just a plaque, those were Jewish initiatives with the sanction and exception of local politicians. More municipal, I should say, came through the municipality of Warsaw. And then we see completely different kind of memorialization starting in the 1990s. They're much bigger, they're much grander, they're more inclusive. They now don't just have Hebrew or Yiddish and Polish, they also have English. That's important because there is this thought that people will come to this site and it won't just be locals and it won't just be Jews, because this site is important to not just the local Polish community and not just the Jewish community. So even small things like the linguistics that go into it, right? Am I going to have a plaque that also can be read by any tourist that comes through? Is another form. And I think that the more we look at Europe and the EU's decisions, different decisions on education, and I'm pointing to education more, we can see the same shift happening in memorialization. If a community in Amsterdam gets some kind of project that is related to Holocaust, or even to their darker histories with colonies, what inevitably will happen is there will be some form of commemoration that comes out of this. It can be a lesson plan, it can be a video, it can be a plaque on a wall, it could be anything. So there is a lot of connection between memory and education and politics and the community itself. And I can say, Larissa, part of how you and I met was through deposits of memory, which was another form of seeing what memory sites look like, what they represented in the past, but what does that mean for today, and how can we shift this into modern times? And I think when you have local involvement, especially from the younger generation, if you get a school involved, if you get a youth movement involved, it doesn't mainly focusing on youth, we have more of a chance to A, educate, B, create new and interesting memorializations, Because I'm not sure that today everything has to be a stone on the side of a street. It might be a website, it might be an app like you've created. It might be something that you don't even physically have to come to that place of memory. And then you get communities, say from Amsterdam, from Budapest, from Prague, and from Łódź, all coming together to memorialize something because you can connect them because you don't have to physically travel because you can do it from the comfort of your classroom, home, whatever, on the bus.
Yeah, definitely. And that was also one of the ideas we had when we created the app. And it was created during pandemic. So you can imagine the difficulties and obstacles around.
Absolutely.
And the idea was the president of Humanity in Action Poland, Monika Mazur-Rafał, had this idea that we need to present something to the youngsters what will be familiar tool to them. And they are scrolling the screen, so the app was more or less natural result of this brainstorm. And but we wanted to give them also the portion of facts, of the real stories, something what they don't have to spend time on fact checking, but they have the package of information. So because we are never sure how they will if they detect or not what is true or what is not true, what kind of website they will visit, what type of knowledge they will learn, and so on. So we wanted to present this package of knowledge concentrated around these 10 stages, but this tool was also thought as a tool helping the teachers and educators in preparation before, during, and after the visit in the memory site. So we can divide these 10 stages into these 3 sections. What was before the genocide, what happened during this peak, let's say, of this process, and what happens afterwards. So very often in this educational world, we are talking about the problem that groups who are visiting the memory sites, they are not well prepared for this visit, and what is even more often, they don't have kind of closure. So they have this visit, and afterwards they're just coming back to school, home, whatever, and that's it. There is no summary of this visit. There is no space to talk about it. There is no additional, I don't know, exercise, whatever, to make them feel comfortable also, and to put the line between this experience and the rest of their life. So they cannot make this transition, they cannot put everything together. So this tool was also thought as kind of helper for the teachers. And since it's available in Polish, English, and German, we also wanted to reach this international group of educators, but also youngsters. So we know that some teachers were using that during the school exchanges. So that was helpful from children from different countries and contexts. So we know that it was helpful. And as you said, there are different places, different local activities, different language is used, and so on. So that was also a challenge to balance it. And I think in this educational and not only educational work, balance is a key word very often.
Absolutely. And I'd just like to add that it's very true. Dark tourism, which is tourism to places of atrocities. So dark tourism has become this form of almost a must, right? People want to go and see where something terrible happened, which is great on the one hand. On the other hand, as you say, if we're ill prepared, if we're not guided properly through the place itself, and if we don't have the almost aftercare, then that could leave a person in sometimes forms of trauma, because it depends, of course, where you're going, but in places where you can still see real evidence And I'm not going to use just the death camps for this, right? Not just if you go to see Auschwitz or Majdanek, where you can still see real artifacts that are there from the time of in place, but also if you go to places where there are mass killing pits, and you just look at the vast area and you understand how big it is, that can create some form of trigger or trauma. So if that's not dealt with, if there's no pre, during, post, that is an issue. So having an app that allows also people who don't necessarily come from tourism or don't necessarily come with a scholarly background, that allows we call this safely in and safely out. You go in, you learn what you need to, and you leave in a safe mental and physical situation. So sorry, I took over there.
Yeah, thank you. And George, because you have a great experience in international cooperation as well, and you have been working in different countries in different contexts also. So I'm wondering if you have some thoughts, some reflections about how in different countries and different cultures this topic of mass atrocities, of remembrance also is present, and what on this policy making level is happening in that context, also about the remembrance. Because as Lynn said, not always the civilians, the local people and activists are those who decide about shape of different types of commemoration.
Well, firstly, I wanted to just to add to this what Lynn spoke about that the fact that you visit the sites, we believe or not, it has its own effect of the people. Even if you don't speak about that later on, of course, you can increase the effect of the visits of the sites by aftercare or something like this. But when you are there, and then when you see where did it happen, what sort of destruction took place, and then how people have been killed, how many. If you are able to talk with some victims, for example, you can find some victims in Rwanda or even not very far from us in Nagorno-Karabakh, so in these places. And when they talk to you, and I used to visit these places, not very often, but time by time I had the chance to do that. And when you talk to these people, and when you say that, look, my brother has been killed, so you will never forget the face of the man or of the woman who, and then you have to ask them, and what would you do now? And then they answer to you that, I have to reconcile. I have to do something different, but because if we shall continue like that, then it will never happen or never end. What I wanted, however, to tell you is that the first point when you want to prevent future horror situations, then first of all you need to raise the awareness of the people of these stories by this storytelling and all these facts we spoke about within the education. But another point is what I wanted to underline, that we have to educate to the people that this prevention, this awareness, of course, we also need to teach them how to monitor it. What are the criteria which we have to take into consideration when we analyze the situation to recognize where we are within these 10 stages, So, and then what is important when you respond to early action, we say, first of all, early action, then comes the early warning, and then comes early action. But the early action should be there from the very first moment. And what we could do, and this is also part of the storytelling, or part of the tool what I wanted to underline, this is the tool of dialogue. Dialogue between the different people, between different identities, between different ideologies is very important, and it shouldn't be started just at the very end of the process. It should be started from the very early point. And part of the dialogue is storytelling, Lina. Then that's what you need to do. Firstly, to help people, to bring them to sit together. It is not easy. Not easy. I do it on a daily basis now between far right, so-called far rightists, and some vulnerable groups in Hungary. This is very difficult to bring them together. But then by generating emotions to each other, by explaining through storytelling what did happen to them during their lives, what has caused some problems for them, that's the basic point. So I don't want to go farther and take your precious time. Actually, I think, and I'm sure that Lynn understands me very well, it would worth of speaking about the effects and about the advantages of dialogue, and also how this dialogue could be supported by storytelling. What is the role of storytelling? Just for you, Larissa, don't forget about that to do it. Sorry, I I have to interrupt it and give the floor back to you.
But you mentioned something really important, and I think this is one of the biggest challenges to start, to initiate, and to continue the dialogue. Because today, in the culture of being, alone and just me and my phone or my laptop, and I'm focused on my stuff, that people don't have this need, or they don't have, many of them don't have this ability just to talk, to open to someone else and to continue this dialogue, especially as you mentioned, this really radical groups, and also people from different really corners, very far from each other, who now need to meet, talk, and try to find some compromises. This is something what is really challenging, and I see that also during the workshops with teenagers, that we have also polarized teenage groups in one class. So this is a change I see. I noticed that, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, that it changed, because I don't know, 10 years ago it was a way different. It was not that polarized. It was much easier to lead workshops on such difficult and sensitive topics. But today it's way more difficult. So as you said, the dialogue, this is something what we need, but this is also the challenge, what is not so easy. And I don't want to let finishing talking, because I have one more question, which is related to that, because I just need to take a look on my notes, because the name of your organization is pretty long and I don't want to mix up anything. So the Foundation for the International Prevention of Genocide and Mass Atrocities, this is also really meaningful name as an organization. So you are stating clearly what you are dealing with. Could you tell something about the name, how it happened that that you had this idea to establish such organization, and to give that clear name also, because sometimes you can hide the main goal under the name, but here you have really clearly what you are dealing with.
Just to make the situation more confused, I wanted to introduce that the so-called operational unit of our foundation, the name of it is Budapest Center, and many people used to know us like Budapest Center for Dialogue and Mass Atrocities Prevention. And the main point was actually, so when we started, when it came to my mind, this idea to establish this foundation, was that as I told you, we started dealing with I dealt with prevention of violent conflicts. It was several years within the European Union framework, how to build up European capacities in this field, and so on and so on. And then I said to myself that if we are not able to prevent the most terrific, no, not terrific, most terrible, sorry, crimes in the world, genocide and other mass atrocities, like crimes against humanity, for example, ethnic cleansing and so on, then what the hell do we want to do with conflict of violent, prevention of violent conflicts? We should start with these. And then that time it was adopted this document in the UN document on the responsibility to protect. And so we just link these things. And within this, when I started dealing with this issue, how to prevent it, then I came to the conclusion, okay, at each stage of this process leading to dialogue, there is one thing very important: dialogue. Dialogue, because if you talk to the people, if you listen to the people, if you hear the other people, then you better understand them. And just you told something that to find compromises, if you sit together with people and they are just in dialogue, they shouldn't make any compromise. They should better understand each other. And in this case, it is already a step forward, not to kill each other, to better understand that there are other people than myself. Again, could talk the whole night about this, but I don't want to take your precious time with my explanations.
So this is
Was it clear what I said, Larissa?
Yeah. So this is the great way how we can, turn the historical knowledge into proactive way of understanding, recreating, creating, and building some capacities, tools, and building also this communication between different groups. So yeah, thank you. But still, it's really a big challenge. It's so easy to say, yeah, we need to sit and talk, but it's way more difficult to do it in the real life.
If
So
you go to our website, to this Buddha genocide, that is www.genocideprevention.eu, there is a place where I summed up the experience of a process of dialogue, what we have done 2-3 years ago between far right people and some vulnerable groups, the Jewish, Roma, and LGBTQ communities. And we have also introduced this through on video. Through video, we started dialogue on video, so this is also something, just there is a methodology how to do it and how to use the most modern tools for launching a dialogue. Sorry.
So for all of you who are watching and you would like to start introducing dialogue in your communities or in the classroom, you know where to go, what website to visit, and what to use, how to learn that. So please let us know how it goes. So let's jump now to Israel for a second. We are talking now about some strategies. We have here the dialogue, how we can use the knowledge from history, the experiences, and what we can do with that. But I was wondering, based on your experiences working with youngsters, but also with very diverse groups, what are the strategies you find the most effective? In teaching, in supporting the teachers and the local communities, strengthening them in the commemoration, educational processes. What are the strategies you can also share with us? What did you learn during the years of experience?
So I think my answer is in two folds. The first is for educators, for activists, for heads of community. I think you need training, going back to basics. I mean, the facts of the history of whatever it is that you're trying to get through need to be taught. We can't expect an educator or a policymaker to go into a situation without the knowledge that they need to be able to make whatever, whether it's a lesson plan or deciding where to put a memory garden, you need to have the knowledge of what happened, right? So that's fold one. Fold two is giving people an active role. I think when people become involved, take on some kind of responsibility, they immediately create their own place for it. It becomes important to them. So I threw out a memory garden. I haven't seen memory gardens in a long time, but I know this used to be something very big in the 90s and in the 80s, at least in the UK. Had memory gardens for fallen soldiers, for what. But people got active. The community came together. They planted the flowers. They put a tree. They put a bench. They wrote something on the bench. You know, it becomes something that you create. So once you create a bit of activism, and activism doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I'm going to go and demonstrate somewhere. It can be, I'm going to work on a project. I'm going to go into a neighboring school, a neighboring neighborhood, tell them a story, build some kind of project, record a film, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's the being involved. It's allowing people to take part, which allows then also the sense of responsibility and the wanting to be involved. Now, this isn't foolproof, right? In every class or in every community, you'll have people that are not interested. We can't win them all, but we can start with the ones that we can, right? So whoever we can get involved, we can get them interested, then that's doing it. So that's my twofold solution. And of course, the dialogue and the storytelling that usually come together and allow for these situations to happen. Because we need to have a dialogue with maybe our own community or maybe with a neighboring community. Maybe we want to come together, a few communities to do something, right? So we need to be able to talk about it. We need to be able to present it. So we kind of need a mixture of everything. The more ingredients you put into a soup, the soup is better. So the more techniques you use, the better it is.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you. You are sharing this positive, good practices. But I just wanted to ask you if there is something, what should we avoid? What, out of your experience, you know that it doesn't work or is difficult or it's not the best way to deal with such topics in some communities?
So I feel like one of our biggest challenges today is politics. It is bringing in things that are not necessarily related to the topic at hand and creating a larger debate or argument because we're coming from different political aspects. When we keep neutrality, we allow for better results because we're trying to focus on memory or on history or on learning from that history so that that doesn't turn into something worse, right? And I think this is something that especially over I think since about 2016 to today, it's becoming worse and worse. Politics have kind of infiltrated, and this could be any kind of politics. It could be the local ones between different municipalities, could be between countries, could be between religions, anything. I think once we start going down that lane, and we see a lot of this today, where we have comparisons of the Holocaust and Holocaust terminology into things that are happening in other places, and that's just not just inappropriate, it is also damaging to what we're trying to achieve by teaching history. So I think that's where there's a lot of downfall, is when we allow for that to infiltrate the space that we're in.
Yeah, thank you, definitely. And I see that more and more is happening, that
Yeah.
misusing of some terms of yeah, it happens. So I definitely agree that we need to be careful, especially when we are teaching and educating about such difficult and complex issues, and we need to keep in mind that nothing is black and white. There are
Absolutely.
always many things in between. And this is also what we mentioned at the beginning, this fact checking and having in mind that there is always a context of the situation and so on. So these are really, really important things. So because the time is running out, I have one more question to George. And I remind all of the people behind the screen that you also have a chance to ask the question. This is the last chance to do so. So you need to type very fast if you would like to that your question will be included in this conversation. So because our app and this, in general, the theory of the 10 stages leading to the genocide highlights the destruction not only of the human life, but also of the cultural heritage and religious heritage and, let's say, civilization heritage. So I'm wondering, because of your also political background and experience, how can states, institutions, organization work together to protect these communities, the minorities, and safeguard their heritage? Because this is always a question for some people, and they try to, separate the heritage of minority group of the heritage of the state or the nation or whatever. But we know that we need to include it. But how to protect that? This is always a question and a challenge. You are muted.
I just wanted to come back to the teachers. What Lynn mentioned, that I think also that the teachers should be taught that they should also learn not only how to deal with the issues of memories, memorization, and so on, or commemorations, but also how to handle situations when the pupils, between the pupils themselves, there is some conflict situation. So this is not an easy thing at all. We think, okay, they can manage it, but no, this is something what needs to be built up step by step. Actually, I used to be part of this sort of programs and projects, and also now we are going to do something. Hopefully, we shall get funded by the European Commission. But this is also an art to that the teachers will be taught that they will be they must handle the situation when there are some extreme views within the class. How to handle these children? Okay, about the international I would say cooperation. And in this field, firstly, I wanted to call the attention that unfortunately, the last few years um, have been spent under the umbrella of weakening the multilateral institutions, who used to play an important role in preparing or in preventing the genocide and other mass atrocities. And unfortunately, they were not successful at all. There are a lot of reasons, and also one of the reasons is that the whole process have been dominated by Western countries, and not the local people, and also the regional people have not been involved, who do have the empathy to handle these situations. So therefore, maybe one of the first lessons is that the so-called universal multilateral organizations, the regional one and the local people will have to put together, and they will have to, for example, they will have to be able to collect evidences of if perpetration of genocide is going on, because the people, the perpetrators, will have to be taken to account, definitely. There is no impunity in that context. But they also need to bring together people to archive the sites, and then to remind people later on what has happened, how this looked when before this genocide, this tragedy happened. So therefore, I see that the different organizations and different levels, they need to cooperate very strongly. And what is very important, that at the national level, the politicians work together with the civil society. They don't like to do that in most of the cases. I speak about politicians, but the civil organizations, they are those who are in the situation, who know best what happened, how that affected the people, the souls, the spirits of the people. What should we do? And memorialization is not enough. Reconciliation between the people, it will have to be also in some way facilitated if we want to prevent future tragedies. And this is also something that society must be made as cohesive as possible, even in that context of what you mentioned. I don't know whether that was the answer to your question, but I just think that this is something important to know when we speak about this prevention and also memorization with affect.
Thank you.
Lynn, Lynn, please, you do agree with me, or you just
Absolutely. No,
okay.
I agree with you 100%.
And because I promised you that we will have 1 hour for this conversation, but I see that we could spend here much longer, and we could talk really long hours. I just take a look if we have some questions from the audience. I don't see anything, but if any of you will have some question, you can leave it in the comment and we'll pass to our speakers, and they will provide the answer and we'll share it with you. So there is always a chance to do so. I know that some people will watch us afterwards, so equality is a must here. So you also have the chance to ask the question also later. Thank you very much for this meeting. I have so many notes here and after this meeting, and I'm taking some keywords like dialogue, lifelong learning, cooperation, and team spirit, and so on. And one important sentence: memory is not enough. And I think this is something what we are always repeating during educational projects and programs, that memory is just a construct and it's just one step. Memory without action doesn't mean really anything, because what is memory? If you don't really feel that, you don't take care of that, and you don't continue taking care of this heritage. Doesn't matter what kind of heritage is it, even if it's a difficult history, difficult past, and something, let's say, uncomfortable for different people. But if we don't embrace it somehow, we cannot move forward, especially in this educational work and the dialogue, without this openness and understanding. So thank you very much for this meeting, for this conversation. It was a great pleasure to host you, and I hope we'll have many chances to meet and to talk. So thank you once again, and I invite all of you to the next meeting. We'll invite you officially very soon. Just check our Facebook. All the information will be posted there. For today, that's all. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you.